However, Fertility Doc's uncensored site on all things fertility doctors around America conceive or just planning. You're here to guide you every step.
This is Dr. Carrie Bedient of Las Vegas, and this episode of Fertility, joined by my two lovely Hudson from Texas and Dr. Eblen Center.
Hi, everybody. Great to.
So what granted that are now different in a world. So coming up this summer.
Kind of a bittersweet trip. My boy he is going to be going to school in a little bit, but the school has been information about what they're going to do, break, and what they're going to do if they're. So I was just telling Carrie that I found out from the college, measuring how far the desk can be, happened to throw in there that there's water from the door on outbreak of COVID-19. I think that's a really early way to figure it, I think.
Somehow testing wastewater, it's not going to be somewhere it collects, be able to pinpoint.
They said, but I'm guessing different directions with that. And I thought, maybe there's one sewage dorm, and if they detect PCR test and the test, then the dorm and making sure, probably would actually test all the kids before they start college. So I'd have an unusual insight.
So when I was a college student tech at a wastewater treatment plant.
So how exactly, as a lab tech at a when you're like, hey, this sounds like a good idea.
Doesn't just go down to their local wastewater job? So I was looking, I knew that I wanted to go home left St. Louis, came back to Phoenix, did when I was in high school, the Colorado River Project. So states right around Arizona that I'm like, let me back involved and actually have somebody. And there were no lab at the wastewater treatment plant. So I did a phone interview. This was well before the days. Needless are applicants for that job. Used to it, like they would bring in the sample. Some of them were and I would be in charge of between 15, 20 samples at a gallon jugs.
So what do you learn from the river or?
No, their treatment plant. I mean, from where you would expect.
Why were you analyzing it?
Of pollution, various heavy metals to see kind of what was in the general water, sure that there was nothing, a side research project, there was of all things, and metal accumulation in the fit. I literally set up a blender and sample them. Yeah. Plant, they would sample from various places. So no heavy metal concerning in the water supply.
Because like one of the few field trips we actually went to, why you would choose that for a sure. However, standing around like this, they had like doing whatever they did. And the only thing I remember that the water, it has no, and means is if you in water, you would go, it is physically impossible. This like traumatized. I'm serious, even to this, like a water treatment facility moment. Like it terrified me. I remember that like once, it's
what
me.
A way to go.
Plan, but kind of what we're talking about. We're about to talk about.
So the goal of this episode is questions and IVF, and to start off and plans, but before we get back to this set of embarrassing on sperm, because I'm too many people to talk about. But Susan, what's our question?
The week is, should I consider other fertility treatments like IVF?
Claim that this question was from his done IVF and was not, and kind of is trying to decide treatments, or should I think of things like that? Is that kind of?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I would approach that. Really have a friend go through all things from timed intercourse cycle, IVF, to donor egg or carrier, to considering adding in genetic, those types of things, because it is helpful to really think and say, have we considered every conversation with the doc?
I think it's a very individual. There's some people who IVF cycle and IVF a good numbers game. And there's some do by just doing another sit down, and I'll talk to you and I'm like, change this, I would tweak this, but there are definitely some like, we did things differently. We are probably not going conversation. And then talked about Carrie in this, that I think patients need introspection. My philosophy about if you want to, are very few people, you may not things that you need to see, and that's okay. Everybody boundaries and of what they want to do, very personal decision. But some of those thoughts of egg or donor sperm or just embryo are realm of things that possibility, and it's completely okay. Decision. But really the things you have to think, doctor starts talking to me about, do I want to get more information, power and information, have or have not thought about starting one of these options, personal decision, but it definitely with your doc.
Yeah, I think what the point comes for them when progressive therapy, which I think and they either don't get canceled because of that, have good embryos, or they don't have. I think for a lot of, and I think kind of what you were alluding to, you've got to do some soul searching. And is it important for me to have a baby only own, or is it okay for me that's from an embryo, or could I love it created from my husband's egg? And I think that's the point you have to think about it. And times maybe IVF and really sad, and I don't see them for a while, and then they come back and more about this, and maybe this is something. I think it is important to seek. I agree, knowledge is power, and the more you can understand what your options.
I would agree with all right. Set of questions. And when I am giving my sex at one of the local schools, words like sperm, ovary, uterus, so that we get the giggles out. Start with the two of you guys, but
giggles out today already.
Got them all out. I think there's some more.
Even we giggle.
First, long periods of time to get a.
Part of it is the definition. So the recommendations are to not abstain for days, because what happens, they start to degrade. Off the degrading ones, send off the good sperm. So you like storing it up. The general 8 hours, but 8 to, endpoint is probably where you need in.
Yeah, that's exactly what it depends a little bit too. If someone has sort of a borderline low or critical, but chances are, 6 days, it's probably not going to be 2 to 5 is really optimal ability and count.
Is it okay to get with oral sex? The effort and attitude of this couple.
Right. Well, actually, I think so, because the thing we worry about, you get saliva from, worry that that's going to get in the specimen. When we take that sperm from the sperm cell, some of that bacteria that goes in the uterus, germs there. And so if those germs cause a uterine infection.
I would agree with that.
Understand is when an IUI or an insemination, what your relates is not direct of you. If we calculated and put that inside there are hormones in that would make your uterus kiss anymore. And essentially that stuff, other than the sperm is actually that's actually the fluid that's.
So we're really trying to put base up inside the uterine cavity that's in the ejaculate.
It is prohibited in my culture for a male to collect a specimen.
We have condoms in our office that it's okay to collect in. They don't. So while when your husband ejaculates condom, and then put in a sterile container at that point.
So all travel together, time collecting, and is there another way to get it? Can the couple like the sperm sample before an egg retrieval before we go to take a look at the sperm? And that, again, if you have a condom, that can be, sometimes it's just the specimen is collected. It kind of world. A lot of us are at home and it's a lot more comfortable to do their own element, listening to somebody getting for some other procedure. Now, you have to be careful. Don't put it on ice. Don't put it in. You'll kill all the sperm. Temperature. But
I tell guys too that they have to collect at a certain. Sometimes they can get really able to collect backup sperm that they just chosen. If they can't collect all that and use it, and I find backup specimens there, collecting it, you can use another way to think about it.
Our patients too, or keep in mind, are that sometimes guys actually really do have an opinion, and
Really?
and that's kind of hard when we're doing fertility therapy. We kind of partner whether he prefers or at home. Very important, because sometimes some guys who are like absolutely, and if you're to transport it, with of time of collection and the time to be really within an hour. I know some of us have paid 2-3 hours away, and collection room and maybe not the planet. It's able to do that.
The main thing that we patients do not collect parts. We're in Vegas, so that sets up a bad precedent. You cannot collect in your car and not help you.
Oh.
Wow. I guess you.
Questions and experience.
Well, I've never had some instance, however, of partners who have collecting in the parking lot.
And that they don't get arrested and that they don't make it off. If they can get away with it, I don't want our parking lot erasure before coming in for their fertility.
Ever think anything is, I'm sure you guys always going to, well, when can I have sex? For different practices. And typically I'll say, well, sounds good. I'll say, okay, you can do that right now. And then
right now.
Don't do it in the park. Carrie, you have something to say.
I was going back to the days of I would have patients who were in the homes, and every so often you would walk and engaged. And I was expecting you to sit down with their second ultrasound they could do, and then
I haven't had that experience yet, but
fortunately neither have I.
I'm going to digress from the initial next question.
So the next specimen collection.
So there are hints that you can potentially get that don't enter. but if not to have the lubricant, because that ends up needing to be separate in the specimen.
But you guys get that question too. Is it over sex if you're trying to get pregnant?
People that are more predisposed the sperm, recommending those with the intent to get pregnant. We usually say pre-seed.
Also works and doesn't interfere.
Say vegetable oil from your pantry.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't put it back. And are pregnant, it should not make it or not using lubricant. All right. And then if I think I may have a problem, who do I tell and what question is more directed towards before an IVF retrieval?
Your doctor think you might have a problem. Carrie mentioned a little bit ago, things to do, I think it was Carrie, to be able to collect a cryopreserve that we can use, especially if you have a pretty count to begin with, and taking that pressure. I have also, I'm personally not a big fan in most situations. I IUI in most situations. However, especially when you are like paraplegic, that doing a double IUI or the other to get us covered, and that way has worked for me.
We have a special up with, it's a Congra together, one pill of Viagra, and it works.
Very good.
How early? How much before they need it?
Not very far in advance. I get when they come from wife or somebody
to drive, so they're not driving.
Exactly. So they come in and collect usually.
I'll remember that one. Our first episode, I think we have many more of episodes coming to have had everyone to hear from you.
You can also visit us at fertilitydocs.uncensored.com to schedule an appointment with any of us, or you can submit specific questions like the ones we talked about today. And as you can see, the more embarrassing, the better. So be sure and leave some for us so we'll have fodder to talk about later on.
We loved being here with you, and we'll be back soon.
Bye.
Bye.